Hello, Class 2, it's Mrs. Durst, and today we're going to learn about shadow and how we can use shadow or where the light hits an object to create some details called shading. And shadow and shading go together to make our drawing even more fabulous. So let's turn the camera around, find this page in your sketchbook for me, okay? Here we go. Okay, so let me just move some stuff out of our way. There we go. So when we see, and here's a picture of the sun right here, when the sunlight is stretching across and pointing at these objects, the sun is going to create a shadow, okay? So here are 5 very different shapes that we are going to create a shadow. And as we all know, a shadow mimics the shape of what the shadow is of. So this one is coming straight down. The light is literally coming straight down on this little flag, okay? So if that was the case, the shadow would be pretty much straight off the image that you're trying to replicate. So this is the flag's shadow. See how it's almost straight down from that flag, okay? Now let's look at the house. The sun is coming at kind of that angle that we see right here. So my shadow is going to be ever so slightly offset slightly at an angle out. So that when we're mimicking the shape, I have some lines to help me. There is an angle up, okay, and another angle out, and then the house has a flat roof, okay. So I'm mimicking the shape of the house here and trying to create a shadow that would make sense to my eyes. So the way the sun is coming down, I think that this shadow would make sense if I did that in a piece of art. Let's go over here. This is somebody I think we know. So I'm going to mimic his shape. Look at the angle of where the light is coming and realizing his shadow will be sort of out this way, right? Because of the angle of my light source. So there is a shadow occurring this way, hitting Gronk, and his shadow is being cast at an angle according to where the light is coming from. Here's a fun little person. So the light is coming here, and so the shadow will lay somewhere in this direction. So we mimic the shape, but at kind of this angle so that it makes sense with the light. Something to this effect, okay? So you know how sometimes when you're walking outside and the sun is either low, well, it's either sunrise or sunset and the sun is low, your shadow looks ginormous. It looks super tall. That is because the angle casts a much longer shadow. So I'm going to fix my shadow here because I realize it should be a lot more distorted or longer than even this man is tall because the angle is longer, okay? Same with this tree. Now trees are fun. to do shadows, because you come up and then you see it comes this way, right? And you can make a little tree shadow right on the ground here. And they always turn out great, no matter what you do. Tree shadows work almost 99% of the time. There we go. And then there's some kind of little bird person. So I'm going to put him up there. That's his shadow. And there we've created the concept of shadow. Using shadow in your art makes it more realistic. Let's turn the page. We have worked on our spheres. We still want to continue to work on our spheres. They are an important and practiced part of art. So here's our light source right here. Gronk is holding up the light, or it's holding him up, I'm not sure. So the light is coming to this ball right here, okay? So that will be my brightest spot. So my darkest area of my sphere is going to be directly in the back. So I'm going to work on my shading techniques. Remember, shading is darker to lighter with slow moving strokes. Okay, so I'm going to make this my darkest area right here. All right, and then as I'm getting closer to this light source, I am going to lighten my strokes up. I want it to look very smooth. You don't want to see scribble lines. You want to see sketch lines. They're different. The difference is a sketch line looks professional. Scribble, not so much. Okay, so here I go. And I'm going to just keep going till I get to almost not touching my paper, almost right there. Okay, so I can continue to now work within the shape of my sphere. Okay, and that's what I'm going to do here. But I also need to make sure that I put that little blob there. That's why we have an eraser, woohoo, is the shadow. So remember, an oval shadow works best for a sphere. So I'm thinking about an oval like that. And then it's darkest, closest to the ball or the sphere, just like this. And then you work out a little lighter. It's still a shadow, so it's still going to have some meatiness to it. It's not like shading, it's a shadow. There we go. There is this one. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is also do this sphere and pretend the light is coming down from that angle. Okay, what will happen is your shadow will be smaller because the angle is more on top of the ball, okay? Not as much to the side. So work on that, and I'm going to lengthen this shadow just a little once I see what I'm up against there, okay? And then just fix up your shading so that it is very smooth, dark to light, where you're hardly seeing a difference occurring. And I'm going to keep going all the way there. There's my sphere. Okay, so work on the second one. And then let's talk about our 3D shapes. The first one I want to make, first we have to have a light source. So let's make ourselves a light source. It can either be a light bulb or a sunshine just up here in the corner. Okay, so make yourself a light source. So we're going to do a cube. We're going to do a solid cube. So we're going to build a square, just like this. And then I'm going to give it 3 lines at an angle. And I'm going to connect this one and that one. Okay, so how we shade a cube, and we're watching the light come this way. Okay, so sometimes it's good to draw a line to see where the light comes in. So obviously this side over here is going to be our darkest. So go ahead, it's not getting any light. There's no light that's kind of wrapping around. So I always give this guy a good coat of shade, just like that. Doo-doo-doo. Now, this side facing us is getting maybe a little light, a little wraparound light. So I give the cube a nice medium amount of shade, not as dark as my other one, but just medium, just like this, okay? So that is a nice medium color. And then the light is coming to the top here. So I'm just going to give a little bit of shade over here, because maybe this side of my cube is not quite getting as much as this side. There you go. Now, this would be super cool, except we need a shadow. So a shadow for this is pretty simple because you're mimicking the square image here. You want to keep this angle here, okay? So you're doing 2 lines, and that same angle. And just like with our sphere, our shadow is darkest closest to our object, okay? And then it goes a slight bit lighter and still a slight bit lighter there. And then I'm just going to clean up my lines so it looks like a real shadow. Okay, so that I'm going to just extend this slightly for my own need for perfection. There we go. So there's how you would do a shadow with a cube with the light hitting it on the far side. How about a cylinder? Let's work on our cylinder. So we're going to have an oval, 2 lines, and a rounded bottom. Okay. So on this one, I'm going to have a light source over here as well. This kind of angle helps us. So there's my light source. So the darkest part of my cylinder is right here, this third of my rounded edge. So this third gets a lot of pencil, and then we move lighter, lighter, and almost no. And think about the light is hitting your cylinder here, so you want that very bright. So you just keep this area in the middle of this cylinder medium. And then you can darken up this area right here. Okay, and that's how you do that. Then up here, same idea with your cube. You want to give the top a little dimension as well by just giving it a bit of shadow here. Okay, so that the light is obviously hitting here strongly, and there is some wraparound light there. So let's make a shadow. If the light's coming here, my shadow is going to be coming this direction towards me. Okay, and darkest right by my dark area. And dark here. And then it must be a little longer. And then it's a rounded edge, because it's mimicking this edge right here all the way around. Okay, so shade that in. And there's your shadow for your cylinder. Okay, it should be a little fatter, I think. All right. So now let's do our last shape, and that's a cone, okay? So our cone is a letter A, start to make a letter A with a rounded edge, okay? And let's say we're gonna take our light bulb up here and bring the light this way, okay? So just like our friends, the cube and the cylinder, our darkest side is, of course, over here because the light is here. And so you want to give this a little bit of a dark treatment. And then it goes to medium until you come around and you have the light side here. And I want to make this whole side light. That'll make more sense, I think, to my eye. Love an eraser. Good. So we have a bit of a shadow, and then it gets less. All right. And then I can work with this a little more to make it really smooth looking. The more you will work with it, the more real this business will get. Okay. Now my light's coming down here. I need a shadow. My shadow is going to be this letter A shape. So I'm going to say it's going to come this way and go back that way. Okay. And of course, like I said before, our shadow is darkest right next to the object. And then we bring that shadow out, we call it. Woo! There we go. And there's a shadow for our cone. And again, you can mess with this and it will just start getting more realistic, believe it or not. Okay, so spend some time with these. We're learning to shade objects. So do me a favor and make a slightly smaller cube next to the big cube, a slightly smaller cylinder next to your big cylinder, and a slightly smaller cone next to your big cone. This will allow you to practice your shading skills on a smaller level, okay? And just enjoy it. Take your time with it. Our last page today is a fun page. I would like you to pretend that on this page, there is something at the bottom of the ocean right here, and that the sunshine is pouring down from this direction, from the top of the ocean. The sunshine is pouring down. You can think of this little man as coming from a boat, coming down with the sunlight. And so whatever you create down here should have not only shading on the far side of the object, but also a bit of a shadow. Not a lot of shadow because the light is coming straight down at it, but there should be just a little bit of a shadow. Okay, so go ahead and finish up these pages in your sketchbook. All of this technique training will be very helpful in our next project.